This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're previewing the Bates men's and women's basketball seasons with head coaches John Furbush and Allison Montgomery. We also look back on the Bates football season and take a look at the success of the women's cross-country team. They're headed to the NCAA Championships. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates football team honored their 12 seniors Saturday at Garcelon Field before their final regular season game of the year. The Bobcats squared off with Hamilton, and the teams found themselves tied at 7 at halftime. Bates evened the score in the second quarter on a 19-play, 77-yard drive that was capped off by the second rushing touchdown of first-year quarterback Matt Golden's career. But the Continentals scored 17 unanswered points in the second half, including 10 in the fourth quarter, to pull away for the 24-7 victory over the Bobcats. After it was all said and done, Bates finished the regular season with a 3-5 record, an improvement over last year's 2-6 finish. We sat down with head coach Mark Harriman to reflect on this year's senior class and to look back on the season.
This has been a great group. I mean, we spoke a little bit last week, and I talked about what I feel they really bring to the table was their leadership, and that that goes for not just our three captains, but I think the class as a whole, and their work ethic has been phenomenal. I think a lot of them are probably more leaders by example than vocal type leaders, but again, showing up every day and getting after it during the season, during the off season, and that certainly sets the tempo for the younger classes.
What's your message each year on senior day to the seniors, like before the game or during halftime or whatnot? Yeah,
I mean, again, it's really emotional, and I try not to, bring any more emotion into that. Everybody's different. I think from what they'll take from their last game of their college career. Some guys get really emotional with it, other guys don't, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. But I think for the most part, it's about going out and it is certainly one of the games that you'll always remember, and to go out and like we talk about every week, but I think it has special meaning for the seniors to go out and don't leave everything on the field and don't have any regrets at the end of the day.
And then the game on Saturday against Hamilton, they pulled away a little bit there in the second half. It was close throughout the first half and whatnot, and even through the third quarter. But it looks like Hamilton's really had a balanced attack, maybe more so than the previous two opponents.
Yeah, I think they did a nice job with controlling the clock once they had a lead. I think that was the thing that they really did a good job with. They did a nice job in the run game, which again will open up some of the play action and bootlegs that they ran. They had two big pass plays that kept both their touchdown drives alive, and I think that that was where the balance came in to a certain extent, because overall I thought we did a nice job with the pass game. If we had been able to limit them on those other plays, then they become a lot more one-dimensional. But they are a good running football team. They're a little bit different than a lot of the teams we face, because they'll come out with a lot of 2-back, 3-back sets and really try to power the ball north and south, and they did a good job with it.
Yeah, their running back Gutierrez, 5'5", but over 200 pounds, so kind of like a bowling ball out there. It seems like sometimes when it's running backs that small but that stocky, you lose them sometimes in the massive offensive linemen.
Yeah, I think that's the case. The thing that he did a great job with, or we didn't do a particularly good job with on Saturday was, I thought we were arm tackling a little too much on him and reaching as opposed to running our feet. And when you got a guy that's very powerful and with that type of low center of gravity, if you don't really get your feet moving on contact, then he's got the opportunity to break some tackles, which he did.
Matt Golden got his first collegiate start there on Saturday. Ran the ball fairly well, especially early in the game. Struggled a little bit passing-wise, obviously his first start. What were your impressions of him?
I thought Matt did, as far as his approach during the week and then his approach on game day, it was really what we anticipated. He's a pretty calm, cool guy. I don't think he was flustered at all out there. I think the pass game on both sides of the ball is the biggest change for high school guys, and even though it is the 8th week of our season, it's still the first time in that he really had to step into that type of situation and make some of the reads that we asked him to make. And I don't think conditions were great for him out there. I mean, once we again got into some situations where we had to throw the ball, that's tough to a tough situation for a young quarterback to be in.
What did you say to the team after the game?
It was really disappointing. I think for everybody in the program, it was a game that we knew we had to play well to win. We didn't play particularly well. I didn't think overall from an execution standpoint. Had nothing to do with our effort, had nothing to do with the toughness that we brought to the table. But we had opportunities to execute on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game, and we came up short. And when they had some opportunities to make plays, they did. And that's that's realistically when you're playing a team that's evenly matched with us. It comes down to those types of things, and again, we need to execute better in many phases of our game to win that game.
So it's the off season now for football. What's your main focus? I mean, obviously recruiting, but what are some of the things you're going to be looking at in the off season to try to improve further next year? Because obviously 2 wins last year, 3 years this year, looking to improve even next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll certainly be able to take the next step offensively. If you look at, the one thing about an offense is that, especially with our limited practice reps, it's a slower process than certainly I would like, or I think anybody involved with our program would like it. And having literally, besides a couple of guys up front, not taking anything away from Jimmy or Mitch, but having everybody back is going to, we're going to be in a total different mindset. Offensively coming back next year. So we got to, during the off season, we'll sit and evaluate everything that we did, and certainly look to expand upon we were pretty simplistic this year on offense for a variety of reasons, and a lot of it to do with our youth. And I think we'll be able to expand upon that next year.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for everything this 2016 Bates football season.
Thanks.
The men's and women's cross-country teams competed at the NCAA Regionals this weekend in Westfield, Massachusetts. The men finished in 7th place out of 56 teams. First-year James Jones finished in 21st place, and junior Zach Megan finished 27th. Both runners earned all New England honors. Meanwhile, the number 8 nationally ranked women's cross-country team finished 5th out of 59 teams at regionals, with senior captain Jessica Wilson, junior Catherine Cook, and first-year Olivia LaMarche earning all New England honors by finishing in 19th, 20th, and 33rd place, respectively, out of 406 runners. On Sunday, the women's team found out they had qualified for the NCAA Championships for the first time since 2012. Head coach Jay Hartshorn joined the Bobcast to talk about Olivia LaMarche's breakthrough performance and the team's preparations for nationals.
Olivia definitely had a really good race, and in some ways it's probably to be expected because she ran a lot this summer, but she wasn't training for cross country. She actually didn't join us until the very beginning of school. So she wasn't really doing workouts or having any really formal training. So it should be expected that when you add intensity and you kind of get rolling, and now we're 2 months into it, that it's going to feel a little bit more comfortable and get a little bit more easy for her. And I think we saw that this weekend, and she seems to handle the stress of competing fairly well. And sometimes when you haven't done it before, you're sort of naive about some of the things that other kids feel like, oh, this is such a big meet or there's so many people. And, to her, everything's just like the first time she's done it. So in some ways it probably makes it harder and then easier at the same time.
Gotcha. And then what was the course like? Course you've been on before, I assume, or no?
Yeah, actually last time we went to Nationals in 2012, it was also at this course. So I felt prepared for that. I think the thing that was weird about this year is that we were on some really difficult courses. Our course was hard, Colby's course was hard, and then this course was pretty easy, and the Louisville course was pretty easy. So it was just a funny year that you had to prepare yourself for a lot of hills, a lot of terrain changes, and then not a lot of hills. This course, there's 60 teams in the meet, so it's about 400 runners, which is ginormous. So the challenge is like getting out and making sure you don't get stuck, and then the trails are a little bit narrower too. And so that's the only thing that's really hard about it, but both those things can be pretty difficult. And we actually had a really sort of hard box draw, so we were all the way over to an edge and had to run through these like little kid soccer goals and stuff like that. Like they have all this stuff on the field that you just can't move. And so we didn't have the best draw, but we were right next to Williams, who's, perennially a contender. So it was just sort of easy to be like, all right, we'll just go and do what they do. And so we ended up getting out pretty well, and then it worked out.
Okay, great. And once you found out you finished 5th in regionals, how confident were you waiting for the announcement on Sunday?
I felt really good about it because when we went down to Louisville, we beat sort of a couple key teams. So we beat the number 1 finisher in the South. We beat the number 3 finisher in the Central. We beat the number 2 finisher in the South. We beat the number 5 finisher in the Atlantic. And we were just really 3 points off of the number 3 finisher in the Great Lakes. So that all just helps your resume. So I felt like we had done enough to help our resume. But without those wins down in Louisville, we would have had the win against Middlebury, and that would have ended up probably being the biggest factor for us would have been having beaten Middlebury at NESCACs, and then they obviously beat us back this weekend. But you can never just say, oh, I know this is going to happen. But I felt pretty good about it until like an hour left, and then all of a sudden I didn't feel as good.
So when you found out you did make it, how did you alert the team? Just via an email or text?
Well, it was sort of funny because they were going to get together and try to find out together because it was supposed to come out at 1, but then it came out way earlier than that. So the captains tried to be like, oh, we'll wait and we'll find out together, but other people had sort of found it on the web first. But I still think they were happy to like all be together, and I didn't send anything except to the captains because I didn't really know what they wanted to do. So I just sort of showed up and was like, okay, we have practice, and that was it. So it's a little, for me, maybe oddly anticlimactic, and I think for them they were just really happy and relieved and excited.
So as we mentioned before, the team went to Nationals back in 2012. What was that experience like for you? That was the first time you'd led them to Nationals. And then what did you learn from that experience you're going to apply this time around?
Well, yes, that was the first time we had brought in a team since I had been here, and we had at least one individual before. And it seems like we always go to track nationals, and then cross country it's a little bit more elusive. It's just its own thing. So a lot of it's like the process of what you're going through. So for me, I feel really comfortable with that process, and I think for them, it's nice because they'll know the course. They're staying at the same hotel. They know where they want to eat already. Like having really been there, and then that way, if it ends up not being a great day on Friday, we'll be fine because we've seen the course. So I think they feel probably more prepared because we've already been there, which is part of the reason we obviously went. And then I just think probably that we can have our best finish that we've ever had. So I just feel more confident in this team, but not really compared to the other team. I just think that they've been really consistent all year and will still be really consistent because that's their strength, and being able to run together, which we've done all year, will really help them too.
The rankings at least most recent ones earlier last week had Bates 8th in the country. Is that something that you see as like a baseline of where you want to finish at nationals, or does that even not come into play at all?
No, that's sort of the national rankings actually have zero to do with who gets selected to nationals. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the way it is. Yeah. So I think that it's really hard to know how good teams are in New England because the top of our region is so good. They're always like really far up there. And then it's really hard to figure out if the other teams are really close to being that good or a little bit further back. So I felt like, to jump from like 20-something to 8th just because you beat one person felt a little bit much to me. But it's still exciting for the students and it's still great. But just like at the beginning of the year, I felt like we had a good team and we weren't even ranked in our region for a couple weeks, even though we were running well. And so you could never really take those things as sort of an indictment of where you are or like, yeah, we're going to do this. So last time we were 19th, and I just feel like we can do a lot better than that. But also the day, the race, all of that really matters. It's not necessarily like you're the absolute 8th or 10th or 12th or 20th best team in the country. It's like on that day you are. And that's a really different thing than this is like absolutely if you're going to do it 100 times where you'd finish. So
it's interesting, like there's obviously a big build up this week leading into nationals, and then it's over after what, like 25 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, well, hopefully a lot less than that. But
less than that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just sort of one race that's like a pretty finite amount of time. But from track and field, you're really used to that because you can go to nationals. Someone like Allie Hill, her first indoor nationals, well, it was over in under 8 seconds, right. Which is like absurd to think about that. Like, oh, your parents came out and you ran for under 8 seconds, and she was the 9th qualifier last year, so didn't get another chance to run in the finals. So in some ways, well, it's not like a field hockey game or a soccer game or a football game. You get more bang for your buck than you might if your child does a field event or, a sprint or something like that. So it feels, and more people doing it, it kind of feels like more than maybe the track and field side does sometimes.
Excellent. And then, what are you going to be emphasizing to the team this week in practice? Just business as usual, trying to keep it that way?
Yeah, we have. We had practice yesterday, which we've been practicing all year on Sundays, and then we'll practice again today and have a workout tomorrow. Then they'll go on their own on Wednesday. Just it's harvest dinner, which is a big thing at Bates, and then just to get a little bit more time to be prepared and all that kind of stuff. So I don't feel like we need to do all this stuff before we leave, because just part of the process will be when we leave here at 12:30 on Thursday. Then we'll be spending a lot of time together, and then you get to the course, so then you have the NCAA banquet, so you kind of have this nice build up that brings you to race day. So really now it's just making sure that we get sleep and get our schoolwork done, because we are also going into break. So they'll also feel pretty relieved, most of them, when they leave here Thursday, because they're not only get to do this, but then they have a whole nother week after it. So there's not like they have to come back and have tests and do all that kind of stuff, that it's sort of, it will feel like a start of a vacation, I think, which will help us.
All right, well, the women's cross-country team competing at nationals for the first time since 2012 this Saturday. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now it's time to talk to our Bobcats of the Week. Our female Bobcat of the Week is first-year Olivia LaMarche. The Massachusetts native had a breakthrough performance at the NCAA Regionals in her home state, finishing third on the team and 33rd overall with a time of just over 22 minutes and 13 seconds.
Well, Olivia, your first year ever running cross-country, and you get all New England honors at the Regionals. What was working for you so well out there on the course there last weekend?
I think just going into the race, I knew given such a competitive field of runners, it was going to be a fast race, and our team had been working towards this all season, working really hard, so I felt just going into it, I knew I would really have to push myself, so I kind of just used the energy of my teammates and of the competitive runners to really just try to run fast, I guess.
Yeah, and then this is your first year, as I mentioned, ever running cross country. So what's that experience been like? How have you grown as a runner over the course of the year so far?
I feel like it's kind of a unique experience having not run before, because I kind of go into each race. Each race I gain a lot of experience, I guess. I've learned a lot with each race, and I feel like I've really seen a progression throughout the season, just through getting a lot more workouts under my belt and a lot more miles, and it's like kind of nice to know, like, going into each race I have gained more experience, and yeah, just having like my teammates there who have been running for a while, they've really helped me through the season.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your teammates. Obviously, Jessica Wilson, one of the captains. Catherine Cook's been one of the top runners. So what have you learned from them specifically, perhaps?
I guess I've definitely learned a lot from them, and how they go into every workout and every race with such a positive mentality. And that's really rubbed off on me to try to think about the positive aspects of the race rather than letting myself get into my own head. And yeah, just going into it like knowing that I've been training for this and that I'm ready. So yeah, that's what's definitely helped me.
Great. And what was your reaction when you found out on Sunday the team had qualified for nationals?
I was really excited. It's just like such an amazing experience. And it just seemed like the icing on top of the cake we've had such a great season, and qualifying for nationals was just like awesome. I never expected to ever like be here. Like, I didn't really come in knowing that I would even be running cross country, and then realizing that we were going to nationals was just awesome.
And then you're going back to a course you've run before, right, there in Louisville earlier this year. So what was that experience like, and what do you think you'll use from that experience as preparation for nationals this upcoming weekend?
I think going into nationals, knowing that we've run the course before and we all ran really well on that course, I think that really like sets us up well to have a good race at nationals, hopefully. And being in Louisville and getting the experience of traveling with the team was really fun and exciting. So I'm just really excited to get to go back and spend that time again with the team. And it was really fun being there before, so I'm excited.
Great. And then as a first year, how did you end up deciding to come up from Massachusetts here to Bates for college?
Well, I've always loved Maine, loved coming here, and I knew that I wanted to go to a smaller school with a tight-knit community, and when I visited Bates, like, everyone was just really friendly and welcoming, and I could definitely see myself fitting in here, so that really helped with my decision.
Great, and then when you told Coach Jay you wanted to join cross country, what did she say to you? How did that discussion go?
Well, so I first emailed her with my interests, and I hadn't really had much experience with running under my belt other than training for my other sports. So I think I just had to like prove myself to Jay at first that I could keep up with the team, which was kind of, I was a little worried at first that like I wouldn't be able to keep up. So I just kind of went into it like I just have to work my hardest and hopefully be able to prove myself.
And what have you learned? How is cross-country training different from training for other sports?
Well, I mean, for other sports, like for soccer, for example, I would do a lot more, like, sprinting training, because even though you have to be in good shape, you also have to, like, be able to sprint a lot and more agility and everything, and obviously, like, you have to train specifically for the sport, whereas cross-country, it's just a lot of getting mileage in and doing a lot of distance runs, and I find, well, the workouts are definitely very different, having like specific times that we have to run an 800 in or a 1200. That's been very different, I guess, in that aspect.
Okay, great. And then have you talked to your teammates since you found out you're going to nationals, and what were those conversations like?
Yeah, so I talked to them a lot about it yesterday, and we were all just talking about how excited we are and how it's awesome that all like the hard work we've all put in this whole season is paying off and in big ways, and just how awesome going to nationals is going to be.
All right, Olivia Lamarche, our female Bobcat of the week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's back to football for our male Bobcat of the week. Senior captain Trevor Lyons picked off the 10th pass of his career Saturday while tallying 5 tackles in his final collegiate game. Lyons finishes his 4 seasons at Bates with 129 tackles, and he joined the Bobcast to look back on his time as a Bobcat. Talking with our male Bobcat of the week, Trevor Lyons, here on the Bobcast. And first of all, Trevor, your 10th career interception and your senior day there against Hamilton. What happened on the play? Break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, we knew going into the week that this quarterback liked to throw the ball up, scramble a little. So, what we focused on a lot was staying in coverage, even, when he starts to run around a little bit. And I saw he threw up the ball, and, I knew I had to go up and make a play. They had some really good athletes on their team, and coach stressed all week about, catching the ball at this highest point and, returning it to set up good field position for our offense. So, something we've done well in the secondary, and hopefully they can keep that up in years to come.
Yeah, I mean, as a senior, you're in your career, as I mentioned, 10 interceptions. Was that your favorite part about being in the secondary, the chance to force those turnovers?
Yeah, I think that's always something, DBs like to do, get their hands on the ball. It's fun returning interceptions, going up and trying to make plays. And, it's the best part of being a DB, probably.
And it seems like a lot of those came in the CBB series, stepping up a little bit for the big rivals, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to step up and, go out and make plays. We always know Bowdoin and Colby are going to be tight games, so those turnovers mean a lot, especially in games like those, rivalry games.
Yeah. How did you see yourself grow from your first year here to now being a senior captain?
Well, I came in actually as a quarterback when I got recruited here, and then I got moved within a few days to DB just because I knew I could get on the field a little bit quicker, and I learned a lot about being a part of the team, doing your job, holding other people accountable for their jobs as well, and just playing for Coach Herman, I think I built a lot of character, and it's molded me into the person I am today.
So when you come in thinking you're going to be a quarterback and just a couple days later you're a defensive back, what was that like in your mind, as an 18-year-old here? Yeah,
I mean, it was the first time I really changed positions. Not something I was used to. In high school I played a little bit of defense, but, I think at the end of the day it was what's right. I think that was a position I was made to play. And, it was definitely a change going to defense, but I enjoyed everything we did. On the defensive side of the ball, just going and competing in practice.
And what was it like to, play with your fellow seniors like, Mark Upton and Sam Francis through these years? Yeah,
I mean, those guys, along with the other seniors, are, my best friends. We grew up in this program together, been through a lot, and, it's tough to end the way that we did on the season. But, the seniors kept their heads high. We had very successful careers here, not just individually, but as a team.
So what do you guys say to each other, after the game? Obviously a disappointing game on Saturday. What do you say to each other on the field? Probably pretty emotional, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't the way we wanted to go out as a senior class going through this program. But, what we said to each other is just, we had a great time, just playing with each other. Those guys are like my best friends, so it was definitely emotional, playing my last game of football, but also playing my last game with them as well.
Is it a little hard to leave Garcelon Field after that, or it's in a little campus, but all the family members are there and whatnot, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of good memories playing on Garcelon in front of great fan base, great family support, a lot of support over the years from a lot of different people. So it's definitely emotional walking off that field.
So this is the toughest question I'm going to ask you, but what's in the future? What are you planning on doing here the rest of your senior year and then maybe after you graduate here?
Yeah, I mean, I major in economics, so definitely finance is something I want to definitely pursue, but I've also thought of going to coaching as well because it's just something I don't know if I'm ready to give up just yet.
Yeah, coaching, I mean, obviously, you start like an assistant coach or whatever, and the assistant coaches obviously have a big role, but they always change over, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on where I want to start from. If I want to do a little bit more schooling, and I mean, I can talk to Coach Herman. Has a lot of ties, not just in this league, but in other leagues. Knows a lot of coaches, so definitely something I'm looking to pursue.
Last question, then: if you had to choose your most memorable moment as a Bates football player, what would that be?
I think it's got to be the CBB championships past 3 years. Just one of those feelings holding that trophy, especially in those rivalry games. Just winning it outright is just definitely something I'll always remember. I'll remember with all my friends.
All right, Trevor Lyons, thanks so much for joining us here on the Bobcast.
All right, thank you for having me.
The Bates basketball seasons get started this week. The men's basketball team heads to Worcester, Massachusetts this weekend for the WPI Ted Coughlin Memorial Tournament. They take on DeSales Friday at 7:30 p.m. to begin their campaign.
We're here in Alumni Gymnasium talking with head coach of the Bates men's basketball team, John Furbush, previewing the 2016-2017 season. And first of all, Coach, obviously the Delpechas, their senior year. I want to ask you about them first because people love to come and see them, throw down big dunks. But what are you looking for from them this season?
Well, it's pretty surreal that they're 4 years into their college careers now. But I think I said last year, I'll say it again this year. I expect continued development on the offensive side of the ball. They've showed that so far in the preseason, and their poise has been exponentially increased. And I think that just comes with experience. Experience is the best teacher, and I hope to see the results come through this next coming weekend.
And then Sean Strickland is back as a point guard, right? And then he obviously was thrown to the fire last year as a starter, so what are you looking from him in terms of development?
Well, I think Sean, he's always had the poise. Now I want a little more fire out of him this year and take command of situations a little bit better. And I think I've seen that so far. And again, he's a junior now, so there's a little bit more of an expectation from a leadership standpoint, because when he brings that energy and fire and focus, the rest of the guys will follow him.
And then maybe a guy who you want to point out who maybe not be a headliner, but someone who might step up and you think who's been on the team for a few years, who's ready to kind of break through perhaps.
Jerome Darling has had an exceptional preseason. We've actually started to move him off the ball a little bit because he's more of a scoring guard than a point guard. And this weekend in our alumni game, he lit it up. I mean, he probably had 25, 28 points. And I expect him to do that every game now. So I think he'll have a breakout year. Again, he's somebody that as a walk-on, we didn't know what to expect. But now as a senior leader, I think he could step into a pretty big role for us.
Great. And then I know coaches are loath to call out any first years that they think are going to be breakthrough. They don't want to put too much pressure on them. But give us a general idea of the first-year class you have coming in this season.
Sure. We have two big guys, both of which are hurt right now, so I don't know how much I can expect out of them. But we have three guards that have all shown some serious value, and I would be surprised if at least one, if not all three, will be able to help us at some point this year.
Last year Mike Bornasian, who's now graduated, had to shoulder a lot of the scoring load. I know Darlene, you mentioned him, but who are some other guys who you need to basically just put the ball in the bucket?
Yeah, I think Mike last year was just so good on offense that we ran so many things through him, whereas this year our attack is going to be much more balanced, and I think between Jerome, Marcus, Malcolm, Sean can shoot it, and whoever that third guard may be, I feel confident that anybody can score at any time. So I think our balance is going to be an advantage for us.
You guys open up with some non-conference games down there in Massachusetts. What are you looking to see from the team in these non-conference games preparing for the NESCAC season?
Well, if we can win this tournament, we're off to a pretty good start. DeSales is picked to win their league. They won 21 games last year. WPI has been at the NCAA tournament the last 12 years. So if we win on Friday, I expect to play WPI Saturday, and there's no time to mess around. I think we got to jump into the fire, which I think is good for these guys. We have 6 seniors who are battle-tested. They've seen high highs, they've seen low lows, and hopefully they can put it together this weekend.
And that's something that all NESCAC teams have to deal with, is you guys have a very quick turnaround, right?
Yeah, the teams that we play this weekend have had 15 more practices, 2 scrimmages, and an actual game before we even play a game. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but I think we've been efficient with our time, and having 6 seniors really helps these guys stay locked in for this first couple weeks of practice.
And just big picture, obviously last year compared to this year, what do you been emphasizing the team that need to work on as a whole to kind of improve on last season?
I've been saying to these guys all preseason that all we need to do is be better today than we were yesterday. I think last year we wanted so badly to get back to that NCAA tournament Sweet 16 that we were blinded by what we had to do to get there. And I think these guys today are just going to let's be better than yesterday and be focus on the process. The results will come.
All right, John Furbush, thanks so much for previewing the men's basketball season with us.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate what you do.
The women's basketball team is co-hosting the inaugural Graf Memorial Classic with Bowdoin starting on Friday. The tournament is named after the late Bates volleyball and women's basketball coach Marcia Graff. The Bobcats take on Norwich Friday at 5 o'clock in Brunswick, and then they host Central Maine Community College Saturday in the home opener at Alumni Gym, starting at 4 o'clock. Head coach Allison Montgomery previews the opening weekend and the upcoming women's basketball season.
We are really excited to be hosting a tournament and be close to home. Last year, as we were sort of starting to plan, our schedule for this year, Coach Scheibels and I over at Bowdoin had the idea to co-host a tournament. Basically, just it's a nice practical way to kind of split the cost of hosting a tournament, but also be at home. And we felt like we had a good draw for people wanting to come, play some NESCAC teams out of conference to kind of start their year. So, we came up with the idea, and we did get some good interest. So we're really excited to sort of be sharing it and also to be at home.
And named after Bates coaching legend, right?
Yes. We're taking, we just thought this was a great opportunity to honor Marcia. Again, obviously we had some nice celebratory things for her this fall over back to Bates. But just both with, obviously Marcia's legacy at Bates, and then also just with Coach Scheibels, while being at Bowdoin, she obviously has a really strong connection to Bates, being an alum and being coached by Marcia. So just as we were trying to figure out what to name our tournament, we thought this was just a really good opportunity to honor her again and just recognize her name. Yeah.
Great. And then now the team obviously coming back. You have Nina Davenport back this year. You have Ali Coppola, but there's obviously going to be some other key contributors like Bernadette Connors, and then also a few other returners as well. So tell us about the team and how it's coming together so far.
Yeah, I mean, our team has worked really, really hard in the off season. I think they've elevated their level of commitment to working hard on the court and to working hard in the weight room and on their conditioning and all those things, and really, elevating their understanding of, what it means to be competitive. So I'm really, really pleased with that, and I'm also pleased that, our core group are returners, and they are upperclassmen. They have a lot of game experience. They now have another year sort of with me leading the program, and so I think just with all of those factors, I think we're off to a good start, and had a couple of solid weeks of practice. Really excited about just their leadership and their ability.
And then obviously last year, a very three-point heavy volume type team.
Yes.
What's the offense going to look like this year? Similar, or are you making some changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was something that we talked about a lot last year was our shot selection. While we have some three-point shooters, we relied on it way too much. We have restructured our offense a little bit to try to have more options. And we've also set some goals right away at the beginning of the season about what we expect our shooting percentage to be. Both from three-point land and also just our field goal percentage. Both from three and otherwise, we really want to improve the percentage that we're shooting the ball at for sure, and would like to rely much less on the three ball for sure.
Who's maybe a player who maybe played last year but didn't have a huge role who you're looking to have significant contributions this year perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, it's so early to tell that right now. I think all our returners have really shown some improvement in the preseason. We're looking to, in our upcoming tournament, we are looking to start 4 returning starters. So Allie, Nina, Bernadette, and Lise, and then Emily Friedland will get that start as well. I'm really hoping Emily can step into a role of like a real defensive stopper this year. She is our quickest player, one of our better defenders on the ball. So I'm really hopeful that she can really play that role for us consistently this year.
When you have a player like Nina, who's such a star in terms of scoring, putting the ball in the bucket, but she is sort of a volume shooter as well, how do you kind of balance that within the team concept?
Yeah, I mean, I just think we talk about it a lot. I think it's, it is something you definitely have to walk a line there, and it has to be a balance because we do rely on Nina for scoring, and she is one of our biggest offensive threats. But I think just we're running a motion offense this year that will hopefully just get the ball moving and generate more looks for everybody and get the defense moving as well. But there's no doubt that she's definitely going to take a lot of shots for us and be an offensive threat for us. But yeah, I think our just goal as a team is to constantly be thinking about the best shot for Bates. And, a lot that is going to mean a lot of times that Nina does take shots for us, but we want it to be within the flow of our offense.
Can you tell us a little bit about the first-year class coming in?
Yeah, we're excited. We have 3 freshmen who have all gotten off to great starts. So we have a point guard, Melanie Binkhorst, who is she'll not be competing this weekend due to an injury, but we're hoping to have her back soon. Kelly Kennedy is a post player for us from Maine, who has really adjusted quickly to, I think, this next level of play. She's from a small school in Maine, and so I think we knew that was going to be a jump for her, but she's really made adjustments quickly, and she's such a competitor that I think she will impact games for us right away. And then Carly Christoffi is a 1-2 guard from New Jersey who I think is really going to help us just to be able to have another capable ball handler on the court. She might be playing a little bit of a 1 for us, but also can play the 2 spot, and she's a good shooter, and I think just has a good basketball IQ. So I think all our freshmen have already added a lot, and I think they'll all contribute this year.
And then obviously last year, a berth in the NCAA Championships for the team, a strong finish to the season, especially on senior day when you beat Williams and whatnot. What are some areas, though, that you're looking to improve? I mean, we talked a little bit about shot selection, but besides that, perhaps other areas you're looking to improve this year to take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think consistency. I think we certainly, as the year went on, we developed more consistency, both in sort of how we performed on the court and our mentality. I think that's a really important part of what any program is trying to do, not just sort of the physical part and the X's and O's, but I think just as we are really forming our culture, forming our identity, and emerging as sort of who we want to be this year as a team, I think just being really consistent and committed to the values that we have, both sort of the tangible ones in terms of the things we're focusing on offensively and defensively, and then just our values of all the intangible things that we're trying to do. So yeah, I think consistency, and I do think we've done well in this short season so far that we've had of practice.
All right, well, the Bobcats home opener is this Saturday at 4 o'clock against Central Maine Community College. Coach, thanks so much.
Thanks, Aaron.
The women's squash team heads to Mount Holyoke to begin their season on Friday, and both the men's and women's squash teams take on national powerhouse Trinity on Saturday, with both Bobcat squash programs then traveling to Connecticut College on Sunday. Meanwhile, the men's and women's swimming teams visit Wesleyan on Saturday and Trinity on Sunday to begin their seasons. We'll recap all of this weekend's exciting action next time on the Bates Bobcast.